You're building a business, but why? Is it to flip it and sell it later? Are you building it to hold it forever? For some of you, you're building an Amazon business to become an entrepreneur and not work for the man. Whatever the reason, this will be an authentic reveal of my personal journey on this question as a founder and sole owner of the My Amazon Guy agency. My name is Stephen Pope, and this is the My Amazon Guy podcast. I've been approached recently by 3 organizations who were interested in buying my agency. Now, none of these inquiries got serious, but it forced a major transformation in me personally. For starters, if I was going to sell my Amazon Guy, how much would I sell it for? How much is my company currently worth? Do I want out, or do I want to run my agency for the rest of my life? Do I want to be acquired by a bigger agency and just become a department head and grow through acquisition? Well, it turns out most of the organizations looking to buy me just wanted a cheap acquisition. They weren't interested in what our team really had built. They just wanted to acquire more clients, take our knowledge, but offer limited value in exchange for it. In the past month, I've consumed dozens of hours of Gary Vee, and I really respect this guy. I love his message. I dislike his delivery, if I'm going to be authentic and admit it. I wish he would stop dropping the F-bomb so I can play the videos in front of my wife and kids without cringing, but he's authentic. When Gary Vee was first starting his agency, he got some advice that the average tenured employee would work for him for 18 to 24 months. And he was thinking to himself, maybe at your agency, they'll stay for 18 to 24 months, but at my agency, they're going to stay 5 years, 10 years, even 15 years. This interaction blew me away. In 2 years of owning My Amazon Guy, I've never once considered that anyone I hired was going to work for me this long. I'll tell you why. No company I've ever worked for personally has ever asked me to do it, right? Like no company I've ever worked for asked what would it take to get me to stay with them for 5 years, let alone 2. And quite frankly, I've worked for a lot of failed startups. 4 jobs in a row in my early marketing career. I worked for a company and my boss quit within the first 3 months. Like, no joke, guys. How lucky was I that I would start working, boss would quit, and then I would have to take my, Texas Hold'em. Here we go. I got a 2-7 dealt to me off suit, and I had no choice but to ante up and pay the blinds. And I somehow would take that 2-7 offsuit pair and land 2 pair in the flop or the river, right? And for those who don't play poker, summarize that terrible metaphor, I was dealt a terrible hand, but had to make do with it. And this is really kind of tied into the Gary Vee comment as well, because Gary Vee teaches that you should stop complaining and you should go in and build and you should make something out of everything, right? And give back and give value and stop being selfish. And there's just so many good messages that he shares, very Christ-like messages, quite frankly. So during these times when I was working for other companies, I was a digital marketer, and I would go in there and growth hack. I would just go grow sales. That's what I'm good at, right? So I would figure out how to fill the shoes of a career individual, a qualified individual who was my boss but would quit for whatever reason. Most of them were running from the fact that these were failing startups, right? Startups are great, guys. There is nothing wrong with working at a startup, but it's a gamble. A lot of failed startups. A lot of startups fail. And so I worked for a higher education company. I was like the 13th employee, and they got up to 35 employees and laid 13 of us off, right? In a layoff round when their venture capital wanted to turn a profit. I worked for a women's plus size clothing company, and I actually did really well there. Then my boss quit, and new boss comes in and took away all my autonomy. And I didn't do well with that because I'm an entrepreneur. And the more entrepreneur you are, the more autonomous you are. And I really struggle with that. I worked for a restaurant kitchen equipment company, and they were British-based, number one seller of restaurant equipment in the United Kingdom. Highly successful company. During the '08 recession, they were growing. And they came to the States. They didn't change their magazine that they handed out. Still said rubbish on it instead of trash bins. Called it voucher codes instead of coupon codes. And thought, hey, we're successful in the United Kingdom. We'll just show up in the States and everybody will welcome us with open arms and it'll magically work out. That's not, of course, how it went. That was failed startup number 3. And they bought a big giant warehouse, filled it to the brim with goods, and expected to be successful. They were not. They were not successful. And my boss quit within the first 6 weeks. So I had to fill some big shoes. And I actually grew that company like $300,000 in gross sales in like 3 months. But they bought a $5 million warehouse and couldn't sustain it or afford it. And so that company literally laid everybody off. So I've gone from failed startup to failed startup. I've done corporate jobs as a marketing manager and eventually marketing director. I even ran a team of business analysts redesigning the mobile app for Verizon Wireless. And we improved the conversion star rating by 1.5 stars by making the app better. We also worked on their website and improved conversion rates. I've also worked for a gold and silver company selling gold and silver coins online. That was actually the easiest product I've ever sold in my life, I might add. There's just great demand for gold and silver. It's basically a currency, right? So without going into too much detail on my resume, if you will, but it's topical to the sense that I have bounced around a lot of companies. My resume is super unique. There really aren't a lot of people out there that would jump from one company to the next in short 8 to 12 month spurts and actually come out ahead. I very much came out ahead. And that's because I believe I'm a talented individual. But what this experience really meant to me is it eventually led to me becoming an entrepreneur. I ended up eventually working for a lighting company and that lighting company was another failed startup. And I got laid off there and started my agency. And within 48 hours of starting my Amazon guy, I had my first client. About a month later, I hired my first assistant. And the rest is history. I mean, we're going on 17 employees coming up in a couple of days right now. It's incredible. So I found my resolution recently, very recently. And I feel like I've been going through the motions a little bit. I tried to hire a right-hand man in Q4 of last year, and it was a complete failure. But now I can honestly tell you as a listener, as a business owner, that I am building my Amazon guy, my agency, to hold it. And this is the first time in my life that I'm trying to figure out how to truly invest in people, in my people, in the people that work at my Amazon guy. And I'm nice to my employees. I've always been a steady leader to them. But I honestly was not thinking about how to truly invest in people until recently. And to be honest, guys, one of my biggest weaknesses is my social ineptitude. And a few of you might be scratching your head thinking, how can I go out and bust out 300 videos on YouTube and run a podcast as a closet introvert? Because I totally am an introvert, guys. And I am face blind. I can't read people's emotions. I can't understand or read a room. I have some major glaring weaknesses, but I'll tell you what I'm really good at is analyzing a situation and coming to a conclusion, looking at a data set and knowing exactly what it says, how it works, and what to do about it. And do so devoid of emotion and stick to the facts. That is my unique ability. So imagine you're an owner of a company and you don't know how to invest in people. That's a weird situation to be in because I run a people business. So here's my journey. Here's what I've been trying to do about this problem, right? It's a good problem to have, by the way. I have a wildly successful agency. We are doing really well, and I'll tell you why. But first, what I've been trying to do to understand people, because I feel like before I can actually invest in people, I need to understand them a little bit better. So I onboarded Wonderlic Won score. This is a testing service, so I could test my candidates of who I'm trying to hire to begin with to try and find some fit. And there's a quantity, I'm butchering that, quantification of skill set. Let's go with that. And they have a 3-part test. The first part's like 12 minutes. You got 12 minutes to answer 50 hard-hitting questions to see how smart you are. Then there's followed by a personality test and a motivation survey. And so this data is supposed to help me find people who would be a good fit to work at my Amazon guy. I also gave everybody on my staff the DISC profile test, and that was interesting to kind of discover. And of course, like people's dominant trait, you can guess, right? Like, so if you don't know what DISC is, it's a quadrant, and you've got social, command. You also have, I'm totally blanking here. I'm gonna have to Google it. Geez, guys. And I spent so much time researching this. So DISC profile, I'm looking for a picture here to explain it correctly. It is, so dominance, influence or social, conscientiousness, if I can't speak right now, and steadiness. So, and dominance, you're direct, you're results oriented, you're firm, strong-willed, and forceful. So that is my dominant trait. And that's my natural trait. Influence, you're outgoing, you're enthusiastic. That's where you're going to see all the extroverts, optimistic, highly spirited, lively. Then you've got compliance, analytical, reserved, precise, private, systematic. Heavy introverts are going to be in that section, as well as you're really super technical individuals. And then steadiness, even-tempered, accommodating, patient, humble, tactful. So I give everybody on my staff this, and then we actually discussed it as a group. And I went around the room, and I had everybody guess my dominant profile trait first. And so I put myself on the spot first, and almost everybody on the staff guessed that my dominant trait was steadiness. I was really surprised by that. Now, could they just be telling me what they think they want me to hear? Sure, absolutely, guys, no doubt. But I was really surprised by that because what I've been trying to do in my organization is be tough on the issues, but soft on the people. And that's great advice no matter what business you're running, because if you can actually pull that off, you can run a team of competent individuals and call out any problems and fix them, but also do so in a way where you're not screaming at individuals, right? You're treating people with humility, steadiness, patience. That's what I've been so trying to do. So I felt kind of rewarded when the team had guessed my disc profile as steadiness, but it utterly took me by surprise. I didn't expect that at all. I thought everybody would have just obviously seen my dominant trait as dominance and driving and captaining things. So that could be really interesting for other business owners to do the same thing. You can get a free mini disc profile test, like 10, 15 questions, and takes 10 minutes. Just go Google free disc profile test. Or I'll put the link into the description here. So, and then the third thing that I did is I've been reading and researching the Culture Index. And just this week, I gave everybody on my staff the survey. And I had taken this a little bit ago, but I hadn't really wrapped my head around it. I also had a mentor who had me have my right-hand man hire that failed in Q4 of last year to take this test as well. And he tried to coach me on it. And at that point in time, I just didn't get it. And he tried to say where we were going to have struggles and where it was going to go well. Totally didn't get it at all. My wife had told me I shouldn't make that hire, and it was a bad hire, and really talented individual that I had hired, just not the right fit for my organization and personality. That was the problem. So I'm a very impatient individual. I want to see results yesterday. I don't care about talking about the weather because I'm not a social person. I just want to help companies grow their sales. That's all I care about. And that's why people should hire us, right? So if you're a client of mine, if you're, whether we're friends or not, if I'm not growing your sales, you're going to fire me, right? You'd be way better off having somebody in the seat to grow sales. And so a lot of the strategy and tactics that we do are heavily focused on that. Our job is to go grow traffic to your listings on Amazon and convert them if they get there. So this Culture Index is really hard for my brain to wrap around, but it's basically a scientific board to explain people. And between Wonderlic Won score, the disc profile, and now the Culture Index, I'm starting to analyze people with a scientific method, which is something I do understand, right? If I can dot it and chart it, it's no longer emotion. Now it's semi-fact based, right? And so that's kind of what it takes for my brain personally to figure out people, because I've never understood people, right? And I've struggled in my personal career where nobody could keep up with me. I was a steamroller. I was a commander, but not necessarily, when I say commander, not necessarily somebody who inspired people to follow me. That was not me. I was a smart guy in the room. Sure, people listened, but I didn't persuade them. I didn't inspire them to follow me. So these are skills I very much desire and lack, quite frankly, in working on them. And I've now, kind of turned this back into that Gary Vee question. What would it take to get my employees to stay 5, 10, or 15 years? So I started to ask this question. They haven't given me an answer yet. And quite frankly, I don't know the answer to this question. I have no idea what it's going to take. That's the journey I'm on right now. And I feel like the first part of this journey was I had to really internalize building to hold. And I can't tell you how often I feel like I have been faking it until I make it. And if you haven't paid attention to Gary Vee, he criticizes that statement a lot. And he just wants people to be authentic. Just be who you are. Go take your unique ability and go spend all of your time on it, right? Like go invest all of your time in what makes you real and authentic. And if it resonates with an audience, keep doing it. And if it doesn't resonate, you're going to have to pivot. But so I run this, in my opinion, a wildly successful agency. We're highly profitable. It's a high margin business. And what we do works. We literally are helping 70 plus clients a month grow sales on Amazon. And the feedback we get from our clients is overwhelmingly positive. Leads are coming in frequently right now, higher than they've ever been. And I can look them in the face and honestly say what we do works. We grow sales. It truly works. And by the way, here's how we do it. We share all of our trade secrets openly. We teach, we share. And I have been living this my entire agency. It's been one of the core tenets of my agency. That's why I have 300 tutorial videos on YouTube explaining how to tackle hundreds of problems nobody else is even talking about on Amazon. One of my favorites is the stupid pesticides test that Amazon triggers when you're selling a product that has literally nothing to do with pesticides. And one of my favorite examples is a tweezer company we work for, and we had to pass this pesticides test for a tweezer company. They sell tweezers. Amazon's system is so utterly broken, biased for buyers, that sellers have been left by the wayside, and it is super scary to be a seller on Amazon these days. As Amazon's entered its maturity phase, they randomly suspend you as a seller, your account, your listings get yanked from the catalog, rule violations occur, and you don't even know what the rules are because the rules are vague, updates constantly happening, UI changes. The list is super long. So who do you turn to as a seller on Amazon while you experience this? And that's why I am in business. I am there to fill that void and to help sellers overcome obstacles that they can't overcome for themselves. And we do things for clients that don't know how to do them, and we also do the things for clients who don't want to do them, right? It's a better use of your time as a business owner figuring out what product to make next, to engineer, to source, and to logistically get it to the States. It's way better for you to spend time doing that than trying to figure out how to run your PPC campaign on Amazon or how to reinstate that one yanked listing because Amazon took it down because somebody reported as used being sold as new and it obviously freaking wasn't, right? So I have been on this journey, and I hope you guys have also been on a journey as a business owner, an entrepreneur, or maybe you're an aspiring business owner. Wherever you are in your journey, my advice to you and the message I'm trying to achieve in this particular podcast is be authentic to yourself and be happy to do it day in and day out. My wife has watched me work harder during the last few months of my life, harder than I've ever worked before. Going night meetings, being on the phones anywhere from 7 to 11 hours a day. And by the way, I already told you guys I'm not a people person. That is super taxing on an introvert to talk on the phone all day. Super taxing. So like it stresses me out. And I love doing the other part of the job where we grow sales. That's the part I love. And so, I'm trying to get more of the members of my team to take some of the social lift off of me. But nonetheless, that's like my personal struggle that I'm trying to overcome. And I'm trying to empower my team to solve problems without me and be strategic and invest in them so that clients feel comfortable. But let me end with this. Last night, because my wife is watching the kids and I'm wholeheartedly putting all my sweat, blood, and energy into my business. She was talking to our 1-year-old Sage, our baby girl, and she says daddy and she says mommy, but she hasn't really used that much word. She's in the babble stage. So she was playing with this toy and looked at my wife Emily and said fishy, fishy, fishy. And my wife was telling me, kind of during our night sync, if you will, right before we're going to bed, my wife was telling me about this moment. And guys, last night I cried. I cried with joy. And my wife was literally saying to me, Stephen, I haven't seen you cry in years. I'm an emotionless individual, devoid of of especially tears, but emotion in general. I'm pretty devoid of it. Very steady individual to be around. I don't yell. I don't cry. I don't scream. And also during things that are joyful, I'm a little emotionless on those too. On the flip side, but I can't tell you guys how happy it made me feel to hear my baby girl was saying fishy, 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 and she has made me so happy. All my kids have made me so happy. I got 3 kids under 5, and they're all progressing. I love progress. Progress makes me feel so good as a father. Progress makes me feel so good as an agency as we're scaling, and to see my clients progress with me. There is so much happiness in this, so much joy, and I'm being authentic with you guys right now, and that's kind of my message right now. It's just that I was just filled to the brim with joy about my daughter's progress. Fishy, 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 and and I'm like, oh, did you record it? And she's like, no. And today she was trying to recreate it while I was working, and we couldn't get it, and so. But every few hours, one of my kids will kind of ninja back into my office here. So I've got a basement office. My kids go down the stairs, and they kind of sneak in, and they want to spend time with me. And I just feel so much joy about spending time with family. And ultimately, that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. And that's why I'm going to build to hold my agency. I want to spend time with my family. I want to be here in my house. I don't leave my house. I'm very much a hermit crab. I don't go to Amazon conferences. I don't go meet clients in person because I use every waking moment I possibly can to spend time with my family. And whatever time's remaining from that, I put into the business. Now, mind you, I'm working 60-plus hour weeks guaranteed every week for my business. I'm working the weekends. I'm working the nights when the kids are down. And I'm working during regular business hours. So never worked this hard in my life. Lots of business success. But at the same time, there's a statement I live by, and it's to be prosperous in all things. Prosperous in all things. If you are not prosperous in one area of your life, let me tell you, I think it's possible to be prosperous in every asset of your life, every facet of your life. God wants you to succeed. I believe God doesn't want anybody to suffer. I believe God wants us all to be happy. And so I'm on my journey, you're on your journey, and I hope you guys find your own inner fortitude and resolution, and I hope you share your own message about how you've found your inner resolution. I would love to hear from you. So if you're listening to this and you just want to tell me your story, email me at steven@myamazonguy.com. Find me on LinkedIn, post a comment on this video, whatever it is. I'd love to hear from you about how you have been on your business journey, wherever you're at, whether you're just getting started or you're a multi-million-dollar business owner. Don't be afraid to talk about your experiences. It is very healthy and releasing of bad energy to talk about what you're experiencing. It is super lonely to be a sole business owner. And if you don't have a good partner, go find a mentor, go talk to somebody about it, and get it off your chest and talk about your worries. And one of my mentors keeps telling me that I'm doing great. Just put my head down and keep doing what I'm doing. Some of the best advice I've ever gotten. You have to continue to evolve. You have to continue to be better and better. But just be happy and satisfied with where you are in that journey. Enjoy every moment of it, right? So like we're having challenges hiring people. And not every candidate we hire works out. And as Gary Vee would say, fire quick. Be humble about that, right? Like if you can't fire quickly, it's because your ego is too big, was his claim. And I haven't fully grasped this concept yet. I'm trying to think through it still, but the main argument was it's humbling to admit you got it wrong, right? Humbling that you got it wrong. Here's the good news. We all get it wrong sometimes. I get it wrong daily in some capacity, but I'm trying to double down on this inner resolution that I've talked about today and get it right as much as I can. Be authentic, find my inner resolution, and then give back to my organization, to the people that helped me get where I am today and are going to help me get to where we want to continue to go. So thank you for listening and watching the My Amazon Guy podcast. Again, I hope you also share your business journey, and I'd love to hear about it. My name is Stephen Pope, and I am the founder of My Amazon Guy.